Good evening, everybody. I'm Tiffany Cross in for Joy Reid. I want you to take a look at the Senate floor right now. At this hour, what you're seeing is the first procedural vote on a massive infrastructure bill that is taking place. It's coming after the White House and a bipartisan group of senators said they reached a deal that would include more than $500 billion for infrastructure projects. Now, it is expected to pass, and we'll have much more on this as soon as the voting ends, so don't go anywhere. But we begin tonight with the appalling right-wing reaction to the gut-wrenching testimony we heard yesterday. That hearing was a reminder that without the heroic efforts by the D.C. and Capitol Police that day, the insurrection of January 6th could have been far worse. At the very least, the sworn testimony of those brave officers conveyed the life-threatening struggle they endured on the front lines as they tried to repeal a determined and violent mob of Trump supporters. And that's what makes the reaction from right-wing cable hosts and Republican members of Congress so incredibly shameful. Last night, numerous TV personalities on Fox News mocked the investigation. They downplayed the insurrection and ridiculed the officers who risked their lives that day. Here's just a fraction of what they said.
The whole thing turned into, in the eyes of many, nothing more than performance art.
Let's see if we can impeach and smear and slander Donald Trump one more time.
The theatrics were intended to produce an emotional reaction. Logic and facts be damned.
An awful lot of members of Congress are emotionally fragile. Some seem unstable, really. Some to the point they might qualify for federal disability on those grounds.
It was not a terrorist attack. It wasn't 9/11. It wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to America. It wasn't an insurrection.
So apparently, this is what we can expect from the right-wing media for the duration of this investigation. They're even willing to attack uniformed police. In fact, Laura Ingraham made fun of those officers by awarding them fake prizes, saying, among other things, that Officer Goodell exaggerated the threat he faced that day. Then, of course, there's Republican Congressman Jim Banks, who was rejected from the committee last week when he tried to undermine its mission. He's now smearing the officers who testified, effectively making up rumors to insult their intelligence.
Everything that you saw today was carefully scripted by Speaker Pelosi and her staff. Even the statements that these police officers read, you could tell at times they didn't write the statements. They were merely reading them as they stumbled over some of the words that they weren't familiar with.
You guys heard that, right? He's attacking the officers who helped to save his life. And that's the guy Kevin McCarthy wanted on this committee. Banks is not only insulting the officers' ability to think for themselves, but unsurprisingly, he came equipped with zero evidence to support his baseless allegation. Now, in a statement, Speaker Pelosi's office called his claim despicable, saying that neither the speaker nor her staff scripted their testimonies in any way. In fact, many Republicans, like Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, and Congressman Jim Jordan, don't even know what they're criticizing because they couldn't be bothered to watch the hearing. Their continued attacks on the only bipartisan investigation of January 6th really reveals just how complicit they are in the events of that day. And in some cases, their bluster might be compensating for a guilty conscience. Congressman Jordan, who was also rejected from the Select Committee last week, finally admitted that he spoke to Trump on the day of the insurrection. It comes after he's weaseled out of the question multiple times. And this is another reason why Jordan should not be on the dais of that hearing room, but instead he belongs on the witness stand. Take a look.
Did you talk to the former president that day?
I've talked to the former president umpteen times, thousands. I mean, not thousands times, but countless times. So
Sure.
I've talked to the president numerous times. I continue to talk to the president since he's left office.
on January 6th, Congressman.
Yes.
On January 6th, did you speak with him before, during, or after the Capitol was attacked?
I'd have to go. I spoke with him that day after. I think after. I don't know if I spoke with him in the morning or not. I just don't know.
With me now is Susan Del Percio, a Republican strategist. And in a moment, we'll be joined by Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania. She was an impeachment manager earlier this year, so she will certainly join us momentarily. But we begin with you, Susan. I want you, a lot of people yesterday, they were basically accusing Officer Dunn of making up the story, that people were hurling these racist slurs at him. I want you to take a listen to actual audio of a voicemail that Officer Fanone received. People wanted proof. Here's the proof.
You're a punk. You're a lying. How about all that scummy black scum for 2 years, destroying our cities and burning them and stealing all that out of the stores and everything? How about that, assaulting cops and killing people? How about that, you? That was on the Capitol. I wish they would have killed all you scumbags, because you people are scum. They stole the election from Trump, and you know that, you scumbag.
This is insane, and I see Congresswoman Dean, you're joining us as well. Susan, I'll give you a chance to answer this question before I move on to Congresswoman Dean. Why is it? I have to say, I wasn't surprised when I heard the racist slurs. I wasn't surprised when I heard Officer Dunn's testimony. But I am curious, why do you think that there are so many people who support white supremacy, so many racists who find a home and feel comfortable within the Republican Party? Because this didn't begin with Trump, and it certainly won't end with him.
No, but they found a place that they are literally embraced when it came to Donald Trump, and they became part of the party that Donald Trump was part of. And of course, it's not a reach to think that they said those things to the officer. And one other thing, with all of this false hype from right-wing media, you know how we know their testimony was true? We know it was true because we saw it on television. We saw what was happening in real time. There is video to prove the attacks on these officers' lives. This is, you started off the segment with saying it's shameful. These people have no shame that are making these attacks. These members of Congress, the Republican members of Congress who are making these attacks, they have no decency. They have no shame. They have no moral compass. They don't belong representing our government, but there they are. And they all they have is this anger to hurl around.
Congresswoman Dean, thanks for joining us. I know it's a busy day on Capitol Hill. I want to bring you into the fold. What was most baffling to me was the fact that the GOP didn't even bother to watch. They couldn't be bothered to pay attention and still shamelessly defend the insurrectionists, essentially. I want you to take a listen to this exchange between your fellow Congressman Jamie Raskin and Congressman Andrew Clyde. Now, this is a cut-down version of a much longer exchange, but take a listen and we'll get your reaction on the other side.
I would like you to quote my exact statement, not your interpretation of my statement.
Okay. Watching the TV footage of those who entered the Capitol and walked through statuary halls showed people in an orderly fashion staying between the stanchions and ropes, taking videos and pictures. If you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit. Those are your words.
And I stand by that exact statement as I said it.
He stands by that exact statement. What he's saying to people is, do not believe your lying eyes. This didn't happen. How can you negotiate or govern alongside people like that?
Well, you can't. These people have abdicated their governing role. Instead, they are in support and tethered to the big lie and the former president, who is a failed president, who, let's remember, but for Donald Trump, we would not have had an insurrection at the Capitol. He fed the lies for months and months and months. And then after the election, when it was so clear that he had lost, he continued the lies. And he had elected officials here on Capitol Hill continuing those lies also. So I'm very proud that the committee got started yesterday. I had the real privilege of meeting with the four officers last evening and, of course, watching some of their testimony. I thought the committee acted in a dignified way, which is all we ask, because what do we want? We want the truth. Who was involved? Who planned it? Who failed to respond after the insurrection happened? Donald Trump invited them on a specific day. He spent more than $2 million from his campaign fund in order to promote this event. And of course, people came, and they came armed. They came with Kevlar vests. And we saw Americans attacking Americans, incited by a failed president of the United States. So, Mr. Clyde, I don't know where he is in this delusion, but it is impossible to govern with someone like that.